Hi, I'm Jeremiah. Welcome to Up at Night. This podcast is all about learning from thought leaders, academics, and professionals based on one fundamental question. What keeps you up at night? Hey everybody, welcome to Up at Night. Today I'm extremely happy to have a good buddy of mine that I actually saw in retail this year, Chris Parsons. Chris is at Retail Rewired. He's going to tell us a little bit more about that later on. But Chris, how things are going on your end? Thank you so much for being here today.
It was great to connect with you at Palm Springs and e-tail. It was so good to see a friendly face there amongst all of the new people in the industry. So having that opportunity to connect down there and have a bite to eat was amazing. And now it led to this, which is great, a continued conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I think it was very motivating to see a bunch of fellow Canadians in Palm Springs. Also, a couple of things that I would like to discuss where we finally saw real application behind a lot of hype around AI-related commerce technologies. So, yeah, I definitely want to touch base upon that with you today. But now, tell me a little bit and tell our audience a bit more about you as well. You have been in the retail landscape for probably longer than some people have been on this planet looking at this video. So I think 25 plus year.
Yeah.
And I want to start this first question. What pulled you into the retail world?
Yeah, with retail, I loved marketing. I went to school for marketing, and getting into the agency world was really tough back then. And an opportunity just from a network, a connection to be able to go into Walmart Canada as my first opportunity to do research and insights for their flyer campaigns. And I took it, and it was the best decision I made in my life because I had the opportunity then to really understand customers through analytics and not only look at data, but how to interpret the data, which is a key difference for us in retail is how do you make sense of everything coming in? And then from there, I had the opportunity to launch Walmart Canada's website, and that was an unbelievable experience. I taught myself code, HTML for Dummies, bought it at a bookstore, flew to Bentonville, had some guy
Just to
add
put
Dreamweaver.
the audience in perspective, how long ago was that?
This was 2004. So in the Canadian market, we had just been launching like Toys R Us and Hudson Bay Company, and maybe Sears was dabbling in it. Walmart had just been launching its stores over the last 4 or 5 years and had really just at that moment been ready to build a commerce website. And it wasn't really focused around transactional website. It was focused on research to drive traffic to store. So in 2004, I coded that. By 2007, it was a full-blown global MTAP platform where we were selling and had one of the largest websites, if not the largest at the time. And then I had the experience of going to Newegg.com in 2012, which is a DIY, pure play, online, build custom computers, etc. And that experience was great because, one, it brought me out of my comfort zone. I had been with Walmart for about 12 years, and I didn't know if I could replicate with the success I had with that platform. Because sometimes and you have this probably same thought at new opportunities is, was it me that did it? Was it my team? Was it the brand? And fortunate enough for me, I was able to go and have a lot of success with Newegg.com and build a new platform and then turn a failing business to $100 million in 1 year. And then from there, had the opportunity to run global e-commerce for Newegg at 8 different countries. And then came back to Canada, did the pet industry for a little bit, and then fast forward to home hardware for the last 6 years. An amazing experience. It had made me a much better retailer because you have 1,000 dealers trying to go to market versus one brand. And then I decided to publish late last year in October, and it's called Retail Rewired. And basically it is all the concepts that I've gathered over the last 25 years, what I loved about retail, where I think we have opportunities, and we can get into all of that stuff today. But ultimately now I'm a retail strategist. I also work for Hale as a VP of marketing for their performance marketing side. And then I have the great opportunity to be connected and working currently with a number of folks on Commerce Rewired. And a bunch of them in the industry, and it's an amazing opportunity to be with such a collection.
What do you think for people who are outside of the career or early in their retail career? or even to, speaking to a board or a new CEO, what are the biggest misconception from what retail looks like and the reality of it?
Mm. Yeah, your P&L could be misleading, right? So you can have a banner year of 20%, but that if you look at it and you take inflation out of it, did you really grow in a year? And that's a one that a lot of people miss is
Yeah.
on their P&L, their transactions were down, but their numbers were high because products cost more.
Mm.
So you got to be aware of stuff like that. I think the other piece is we spend a lot of money on brand in retail. And if your store associates are usually the first touch point for those customers after hearing a radio ad, seeing a commercial, how are they engaging? How are they showing up? Because that could be a very big disconnect from the brand that you're presenting. I think that was one of the first things I really learned as a leader was to make sure I was engaging with all areas of the business, not just focusing
Yeah.
on what marketing was going to do.
I think you bring a point that is so important nowadays more than ever with how we manage new generation and all is that are you able to deliver on your promise?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah,
this is probably the one of the hardest thing to execute at large scale when you deal with humans, right? That's yeah.
yeah. I think one of the things that really brought it into clarity for me, and I won't mention the retailer because we all have opportunities, but we were slow on our sales for a specific quarter. They spoke to me about what can I do from a marketing
Mm.
standpoint, and it was to drive sales. And no problem, let's spend another $1 million, and we'll drive that traffic. And it wasn't until the second day of the campaign where the sales were not coming through. The foot traffic was there, but the sales were not coming through. And I asked the team, where did we end up getting that budget from anyways? And they said, well, we took it from operations, and operations took it from store staff. So I was like, amazing. We just spent a lot of money driving traffic to store, and they couldn't convert because they didn't have the help that they usually need. And you're getting a lot of product knowledge when you go to a store. They're doing a lot of add-on sales. So that disconnect of operating in a silo and making a big purchase, but then you take away the dollars from where the customer is actually landing, was a really key learning experience for me to go and have great conversations across the whole organization, and all of us get aligned on how we support a promotion.
Yeah. It's we are facilitating as retailer usually whatever and everything that happened in the business and to a certain degree everything is intertwined, everything is interconnected, and each department, operation and sales more than anything, are definitely impacting our capacity to perform and vice versa. I think it's a great example you bring up there. You've led some serious and major digital transformations, and I can relate back to paper to digital, then the joke of the good old 6 year of the year of the mobile we've went through.
Yeah.
It was for 6 years in a row, the year where mobile would change everything. And it did at some point.
Mhm.
But was there any moment where you thought like, I don't think this is going to work and we're going in a direction where it's not going to cut through? And how did you readjust?
Opportunities in my career where you saw decisions being made and you were unsure of them, but you want to be a team player and you want to respectfully give your opinion, but then sometimes you're like, am I pushing too hard? Am I not pushing enough?
Right.
And it's that fine line of like being a team player and moving it through versus articulating and finding a way to tell better stories to not come across disrespectful in that moment. And I think without giving a real example, I think one of the best learnings I've had was to find moments to really understand what the merchant is trying to do, or find moments to really feel and understand a PM and all of the opportunities with that. And don't just think about your marketing budget, but think about the whole spectrum, because then you can really challenge because you thought through every detail of other people's areas. And when they see that you're bringing that lens and that insight to the conversation, basically then you have a bunch of advocates, right? They're not challenging you. They're saying, this person understands my business, my challenge, versus trying to just force a marketing program through the organization. So I think that was a big learning. I think there's been many times where the difference in technologies and the transitions that we go through, and especially over my career, where you've gone from pure traditional to digital, how does e-commerce and digital work? I think too often we try to go ditch to ditch, and that means like it's all print, or it's no print, or it's all radio and it's no radio. And I think you kind of touched on it. Everything is an ecosystem. They all kind of work together. And if we can go and define, and I know some people don't agree with personas. I love them as a starting point because it allows you to start articulating who are we targeting, what kind of tactics do they or channels do they interact with, and then from there you can customize your campaigns and say, okay, this persona doesn't really listen to radio, so we don't need radio this time, but we might need radio when it comes to targeting maybe a more mature audience that has not switched over to Spotify. So
a different demographic,
exactly,
based on
So it's those things. Yeah. So I mean, you've had to deal with it yourself. How do you deal with it?
No, you're absolutely right. Like you said, to a certain extent, that's even why we splitted the brand. That's why we keep Polysleep for the direct to consumer people, which are in our industry now that post-COVID and all is around 37% of the population. But we have to acknowledge 67% of the remaining population want a physical interaction with a product. And they'll either go to a brand directly, a store, or a retailer to compare.
Yeah,
and like you said, how as a brand you create that relationship with the retailer and you do certain compromise because their marketing strategy differs from you as a brand as well is, I think, one of the key to success. Agreed. You're absolutely right. You can't say radio is good or bad and out of home is good or bad. It's part of that whole ecosystem. It's one tool amongst many others. Yeah.
Yeah. You got an auto mechanic or a tradesman and all the tools they have. They don't leverage every single tool every day. They leverage it for the right task that they're doing. And that's what we have to do in retail.
We tend to be tracked and side-eyed by the shiny object, AI, these days, right? It was mobile before. You're absolutely right. We're often a victim of the own technology we're trying to push forward and tend to forget what works ultimately. Now, with all that experience, you work with a lot of CEOs, with a lot of different brands at different stages of their growth. Mm-hmm. The one thing I want to ask you is, how did you evolve to develop these channels of communication? Because one thing I see amongst people in marketing that I either coach or CEOs that I talk to is this difficulty to communicate and speak the same language and really truly understand from both sides. So I would like to know how you approach that on both sides.
There was 2 moments I can reflect on in my life that have made me a better communicator. One is Future Shop, and I was on the sales floor at Future Shop, which is now Best Buy. But at the time, I was paying for my education, and they were teaching me a sales track called GUEST: Greet, Understand, Educate, Secure, and Thank. And having that ability to listen more, talk less, understand the hot buttons, what a customer is trying to say, and be able to satisfy their needs, be not your own, what you're trying to achieve, but really satisfy theirs, has always stuck with me. And I use it in business today. So often I won't go into a meeting with a solution, even though I think I have one in my back pocket. I want to listen to everybody's point of view on it, what their opportunities are, their challenges, whether it's budget, staffing, training, and gather as much information I can, and then start to articulate back to them what I've heard to make sure that we're on the same page. A lot of times it's easy to get in your own head and then walk out of the meeting thinking you heard one thing and what the person was trying to articulate was something completely different. So making sure you do that due diligence of double checking goes a long way. And then it also makes sure that everyone feels listened to instead of just being told what the answer is. So I think that combination of Future Shop, and then I made one of the biggest mistakes in my life, and I write about it in the book, which was when I was launching Walmart Canada's website. I did a whole presentation to the leadership team about what my plan was, what Chris Parsons wanted to do with Walmart. And that was pretty cocky as a young 20-something-year-old.
Pretty bold, yeah.
It was bold, but it was also silly. So instead of a half-hour meeting, I had 2 hours of people questioning, challenging. It was embarrassing, actually. It was really embarrassing to have that many questions from leadership, and I didn't have all of the details. And then a member of the senior leadership team told me afterwards, that was probably one of the best learning experiences I'd ever have in my life. And it really was, because what he taught me was go and get people aligned, have meetings before the meetings, understand what they want out of the project that you're working on.
Yeah.
And then if you're able to go and understand them, work with them on the project versus just presenting to them the answers, by the time you get to the overall leadership meeting, everyone's aligned. So now you have advocates in the room instead of detractors in the room. And that was like such a changing moment of how to work cross-functionally, but also it really did force me, and I made it a priority in my career to work with other leaders, understand their sides of the business before I would present anything, because it's easy to say we should be promoting XYZ item, but when you have $100 million of legacy inventory that hasn't sold, the buyer is under some pressure for some bad buys.
Of course.
So what can we do to help that buyer get out of those opportunities to feel less stressed and less worried about another bad buy, give them confidence? Now you've built up an army in another department because they know that you're supporting them. So all of these little tricks and tactics are not meant to be, how do I say this? It's not meant to be like that you're playing games. You're supposed to be working as a team, and that team is not just within your silo. So I think try to reflect as much as you can when you're in an organization about what's the other person thinking, what are they trying to achieve, and it will help you achieve your goals, because then you're knocking off their tasks, getting stuff out of the way, getting those distractions out of the way so you can make progress. And I think the other biggest learning, I had the opportunity at a young age with Walmart to run their year beginning meetings. And what that was all the stores, a store manager would fly in and they would listen to the leadership speak at the year beginning meeting. And I ran the staging crew. And that staging crew got to rehearse, practice, write scripts with the leadership team. And now I'm like 25 and I'm working with Mario Palazzi running Walmart. He's the president. Or Jim Thompson running the the operations side. And you have Bob Brunette, who's running merchandising. I really have no business being in the room with these guys at this time because I'm so new in retail. But because I was running the staging, I had the opportunity to learn from them and soak it in. And it had nothing to do with my job. It was all volunteer work, extra hours, evenings, weekends. And I didn't even realize in the moment what I was getting out of that experience. But years after, it was like, I just took all of this stuff in, and it was a sponge and a great opportunity to listen to different leaders about how they dealt with challenges of the business. And all I was doing was running their audio.
I think you bring something that I tell a lot of startups or people who start in their career, and it goes for both mentor or direct reports, people you report to. Often when we look for a job when we're young, we look at the name of the company, right? We have this illusion of stability. If I go for a big name, it's going to look good on my resume, and it does. And I'm going to have something more stable. I'll have opportunity to grow faster, etc. And I don't know if you agree, but I tell to these guys, look who you're going to report to. And if in the interview you don't feel like you're going to learn from that person, just run away.
Yeah, I have
because
two
what
opinions.
You're telling there is you've learned so much from people, not only that you were reporting to, but within the organization, thanks to their expertise, their experience, and they were willing to share that with you, and you had the opportunity to get this, and that probably influenced you in the best possible way throughout your career.
Yeah, you're right with that. I had a tremendous opportunity to learn from some of the best and take that opportunity. And I have been in interviews where I've said I knew I wasn't going to gel with the other person, so let's not take this role. But at the same time, as my career progressed, I've also had leaders that have come above me while I was in a great organization, and they weren't great leaders. I won't mention any names. I think.
How do you deal with that?
Yeah, I think you have to tell yourself each day that you're going in and working with a new leader who isn't as strong or maybe doesn't work the way previous good leaders have. This is a learning experience. If I can communicate with them, if I can manage up, if I can be respectful, if I can coach them along, even though they're supposed to be my coach, take it as a learning opportunity, because it's easy to deal with great people like yourself and just get along and be able to execute. But there's also something said about dealing with a difficult leader, not one that's totally disrespectful. Don't get me wrong. Like, everyone has to have a boundary. Yeah,
I get what you mean. Yeah,
but have some strength and some perseverance. It will make you a better communicator, better retailer, by going through a moment that's not so comfortable.
I like that. I'm curious. Writing a book.
Yeah.
From the moment you had the idea, which is where I've been for now already more than 6 months, a year, to where you decided to take action, and the reason why you wanted to write Retail Rewired. Please walk us through that process and the mental gymnastic and the struggle and the thing you loved about it, the thing you hate about it. I want to know more about the process itself.
Yeah, the process was not necessarily with the intention of writing a book at the time. It was more of, I was writing theses with every different retailer that were very similar. So cannibalization, for example. Every retailer that I worked with was concerned about cannibalization. And I felt like I was on a hamster wheel, writing the same document over and over again. The cannibalization, in theory, it's real, but there's a lot of practicality that says you're worrying about pennies and not worrying about dollars. And what I mean by that is you have an opportunity to build a website, start engaging with customers in a way that they're now adopting, whether you participate or not. So they're going to be there. Let's go to where the audience is. If they happen to make that decision to buy an item that they would have perhaps bought at your store online, sure, you can call that cannibalization. Or you can look at it from the mindset that if you were not there, they would have bought it somewhere else. Yeah. So let's participate. Let's let the customer buy where they want and how they want. Let's show up at store level. Let's show up online. Let's not hide from Amazon. Let's have a digital strategy over on Amazon that maybe complements, or maybe it's leverage for clearouts, whatever that is for your business. But let's not run from these channels. And what I found fascinating with cannibalization, and what I would often say to a leader was, and I'll use Walmart as an example. I used to live in Ontario in an area called Fergus. Within Fergus, there was a catchment area from all other areas that didn't have a Walmart, and they would travel in 15, 20 minutes, half an hour into that Walmart to shop. Now, as Walmart grows, they're going to open up a new store 20 minutes, 30 minutes away when that population is right. Those shoppers are now not going to shop with that store in Fergus. We don't call that cannibalization. We call that growth.
No. Yeah.
Right? So
that's such a good analogy.
But when we do it for online, we call it cannibalization. So that was one thesis that I was working on and constantly putting there. Then the other one was this theory of the self-checkouts. The self-checkouts, to me, are now overused. There's 24 of them in a store. They were meant for convenience. They were meant to allow customers with 5, 10 items to be in and out, no problem. And when you look at a self-checkout today, if you compare that to online, what's your biggest fear when a customer comes to online and checks out? That you're treating them like a guest. You don't capture their email address. You don't capture any profile information. As retailers, we hate that. We never want anyone to be a guest checkout. We want them to come in and sign up and be an active participant with our brand. When someone shops at our stores and they go and they find their own groceries, they then go to the checkout, they scan their own groceries, they pack their own groceries, they learn how to weigh vegetables, they forget their bags and have to buy new bags. So you do all of this, you treated them like an employee for 40 minutes. That's the experience that we want to tell a customer. No one's talked to them for 40 minutes. And then they walk out the store. So to me, all I'm saying is I think there's a better way of doing it. Self-checkouts have their place. Most people will do a shopping list at home, and they'll do some research online. When they get to that self-checkout, why aren't they tapping something right away or logging in right away? The system can then prompt, right? So the system can then prompt them to, hey, you now are scanning all these items. You missed 5 of those items. At that moment, it's an opportunity for a cashier not to say, did you forget anything? Hey, I noticed that you did not pick up these items. Let me go run and grab them for you. and complete your basket. That is the experience I want to provide to customers, not treat them like a guest checkout online and do it in store.
I mean, especially the hybrid checkout method they have in groceries is probably one of the worst or infuriating experience I've had. I have two. When you talk about that, I only have, I think, two good example of automatic checkout amongst all of them. One was actually really cool. It was at an airport. I don't remember which one. And it's a store where, like any convenience store, you go in, you grab whatever you want, which was a bottle of water, I think, and a snack. And then you tap your credit card and leave. And the only thing I had to do, because it was a business trip, and they asked you, and it was well designed, is, would you like a receipt? Yes. Automatic iPad with a keyboard for the receipt by email, which is a good way to capture info. But it was not a requirement. It was seamless. It was super fast. And the other one was my gym. I go this new gym South Shore where they have a little boutique. And if you want to buy a Gatorade or a protein shake or supplements, it's tied to your own personal profile. You walk in, grab whatever you want, walk out. It's charged to your credit card. But like you said, to move your cart along 30 lane, a $350 grocery with so many veggies that you're like, oh my God, it's going to take me 3 hours. And you have to manually do that. And then the weight is wrong. And you got to wait for a guy that's running around. I don't know. And I don't understand why we got there.
You pick up a bag and then it stops you because they think you're stealing stuff now. And it's just awful. And then that was another story. And then the other piece was, we talk about loyalty all the time, and we create these expensive programs. It just adds to the cost of product. And I get it. I understand the principle behind it. But then when you tie that back to that 40-minute customer shopping experience that they just had, if you want to create loyalty, fix that, right? Instead of adding a points program or trying to send them another offer later on, or the value is in that shopping experience. They just honored you with their presence at the store.
You're right.
Help them.
You're right. So these are good examples that we can find in your book.
Yes, those are among all kinds of different conversations. Yeah.
What would you say nowadays is a stellar, maybe not stellar, a great execution of modern retail experience for the audience?
Oh, that's a tough one. I mean, from a pure play digital experience, I have to go with Amazon because it is just, I'll give you a real example. In my house, while I was back in Ontario, I have an aquarium and I love having fish. It's just really calming. I woke up one morning, it was a holiday, and the air pump in the fish tank was dead. So the fish were really starting to struggle. You could tell when I woke up in the morning, and I had some beautiful fish in there, and I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do? And I actually went on to Amazon. It was 6 o'clock in the morning. By 1 o'clock in the afternoon, a fish pump was at my house.
Wow.
And saved my fish. For sure, it saved my fish. Because of the holiday, I wouldn't have been able to get there until the next day. And then it would have been over with. I mean, I would have had to do water changes or something to try to get them. But it was that realization where Amazon was like, okay, this urgency, convenience, the moments where customers can't shop traditional bricks and mortar, and no other retailer in that pet category had that type of service available. If I ordered it, still would have been 2 to 3 days. So Amazon created that great experience for me. Now, where I get frustrated with Amazon is I often speak about the Netflix experience. So when you go into Netflix, you can have different profiles right off the hop, and you choose which profile is going to be watching different shows. And it's a really great way for keeping that so-called personalization in check. So, but with a website, or specifically with Amazon or any others, when you go on there, if anyone else in your household is shopping that profile, it's buggered up. Now I'm getting stuff for bras, I'm getting stuff for my kid, and it's, why don't we add that Amazon experience to our website personas so the family can easily toggle through who's using it at that moment? Because they all use my credit card anyways, but to just change it up and let them shop their own experience. So when I come to my persona, It's
You can
all the
tailor the
things I'm
experience to
interested.
what you
Yeah,
want,
exactly.
not what family members want.
Yeah.
I agree. It's true. Now, when it comes to being able to replicate the experience from digital to in-store, I know brands that are doing pretty good, but what about retail?
I love what Kit and Ace is doing. I've been
Hmm,
following them and their growth, and their store experience is really nice. I
I
had a
haven't
great,
experienced it.
yeah, I think I would encourage you to speak to David and have a walk with him a store and see what they're doing. They're doing some great stuff. The quality of this product is amazing as well. And then I had a real good shopping experience at Roots lately. My wife was looking for a sweater. She got in there. There was in the two colors that she wanted, they either didn't have the color she wanted or the size she wanted or something. Anyways, she the associate brought her over a sweater that was in a just a terrible, terrible color, but it was her size to get the sizing right. My wife got the sizing of it right. The associate said then, hey, no problem. We'll have it shipped from another store that's X minutes away, or you can go there. Decided to have it shipped, and within the next day, it was at the house, and she was able to get that product that she wanted in the color and the size. And that kind of
At home.
seamless shopping experience was nailed by them. It was absolutely perfect. They didn't charge her for shipping. It was Roots was doing a great job with that full harmonized shopping experience.
I love this. I love this. Scaling, right? It's everything but linear. I've lived I've lived it, the geopolitical context, the pandemic, I'm not even capable of predicting what's going to happen next. So I'm not even going to try, but clearly we know scaling is bound to things we do control, things we don't control. In your experience, what are the couple of most critical elements a retailer or a brand need to think about when it comes to scaling?
I think you have to decide what you're trying to scale, because there's different moments to grow um, your amount of footprint, your stores, and scale from a size perspective. And then there's moments that you want to scale your average order value because you know opening up is going to have too much cost, too much risk, or you want to scale the amount of new users that you're connecting and engaging with for longer term growth. So it's rare that all of those happen at once, but having the
Yeah.
outlook of being very prescriptive in the moment, understanding how the economy is. Like I just saw a stat the other day that one of the banks declined about 46,000 lines of credits in Canada just this week.
Yeah.
So you can imagine all those people that were historically having low interest rates and had a line of credit of $100,000. If anyone's trying to sell projects today, like full kitchen renos, I'd be very concerned about the health of the business. So now you got to start to say, okay, what else can I sell? What other categories can I get in? How can I grow in maybe non-traditional categories to offset this kind of period where people have uncertainty? So I think there's lots of opportunities to do that. And then overall to scale your business in a good economy, I think you have to be having a 3 to 5 year outlook. Because I've
Yeah.
seen companies scale their business and they scale it so fast that when the economy does go through another dip, they're closing stores, they're letting go of people. They hire too many too fast.
Yeah.
So for me, it's just not looking 1 year down the road. You're looking many years down the road, and how far, if things go sideways, how far and how much can you handle, so you don't have to throw away investments that you had just made.
Yeah. I mean, looking at the current economy, I would like to know, how do you think retail brands should approach, especially in the Canadian market? I mean, we're amongst the G7. When we look at our GDP, we're seriously lagging behind in terms of productivity. I think Go Easy this week, which is a financing platform, releases some scary financing statement as well. People are clearly having a smaller capacity to spend. How should retailer approach that in the next 12, 24 months? And I know every case is probably different, but what would be a couple of recommendations you would tell them to consider?
I would first partner with Cattle. I think you're familiar with Cattle. Mark and Ransom, they do a rapid survey to customers.
Mm.
It's very affordable. Actually, if you don't mind me plugging my own podcast for a
Sure.
moment, Commerce Rewired had Mark and Ransom on yesterday, and they made an unbelievable offer to our audience that if anyone goes to Commerce Rewired and subscribes, they will give them a free survey. So it's a $2,500 value.
That's pretty
Can't
cool.
It's amazing. So that's how good of a partner they are. And specifically in the moment that we're talking about right now with the Canadian economy and where things are going, to get a pulse check on your customers they can do it within days, is critical. I would not act. I would take that 5, 10, 15 days to do a survey with cattle and have real customer sentiment, your customer sentiment. Because I saw a stat last year which really gave me good context, was any of the cottages in Ontario that were below a $2 million price point were not selling at all. But all the cottages over $2 million were having no problem selling. And when you think about it, it kind of makes sense, because those affluent customers are not dealing with what you and I are dealing with every day.
No.
So there's opportunities that survey will sell you your customers because they're affluent and you're selling high-end shoes or bags or whatever. You may not feel this as much as a different retailer. So that's why I think it's always good to get out there, get a real pulse with customers. And what else I would do in this kind of moment is, even if you don't want to do a survey, walk the stores, get with your staff,
talk to the people. Yeah.
Talk to the people. They'll tell you exactly what you need to do. And just Sam Walton talked about this in his book 1,000 times, what an advantage it was for Walmart when they were starting out, to be in stores and travel everywhere.
And walk the four corners of your own store, your shops.
Are your bathrooms clean, right? Are your bathrooms clean? Are your stock sitting on a shelf that nobody can reach? Those little details will help you through this. And then the other piece I just wrote a newsletter on, which is the concept of hyper local. I think too much as retailers, we're national still. And in Canada, that might have worked 20 years ago, but we're a different country now. True. Each province is very different. Your political views are different. Your religions are different. Yeah. So why are we sending out one message through a flyer to every Canadian versus what do we have to do that's right around our stores, whether that's changing up local inventory to be more reflective of the culture, or sending out emails, or any digital asset can really target at a hyper-local perspective. That's where I would change my thinking this year, is how can I maximize each of my stores from a hyper-local perspective, or even your website. Why send out one message through a website for, I don't know, let's say an email list of 5 million people? I think that's lazy
Segment
in today's.
Further. Go down. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, that's.
I love this approach, and by default, many businesses in Quebec have no choice to do it due to the difference in language. But I agree, we tend to think Quebec versus rest of Canada, ROC and Quebec, right?
Yep.
But I like the approach of at least look at what patterns in each province, because they drastically varies. Clearly, you see politically, Alberta and Ontario and Quebec are on 3 different planets. You're absolutely right.
And if you talk to somebody in BC though, over the last couple of weeks, it's been like spring. And then I'm one province away and I got -20.
Yeah, we just had the worst
ice storm
episode of ice. Yeah.
Right. That's so true. Think of how your team can send out an email in each province. It can still be about the same items, but how do you connect with your opening subject line or different creative, still selling the same items, but in the morning of 2 days ago with the ice storm going on, my message to the folks in Montreal versus the message to somebody in BC.
Yeah.
If my team wasn't doing them different today, we're missing a big opportunity.
We're missing an opportunity. It's true. I want to touch base a little bit about tech. It was the first time at Retail this year that I saw real application of agentic commerce. We're in the process of setting everything up with furniture.com. I'm looking forward to see how the experience is going to be. But where do you think that's going to bring us in the next 12, 24, 3 years, 24 months, 3 years? How is agentic capabilities or AI in general will change the way we shop, you think, Chris?
So I was lucky enough to present at Retail Palm Springs, and one of the things I opened up with was about how AI is already training us to search different. And I did this deliberate test. So Typically, I know what I want to wear to a conference, and it's either a black suit, a gray suit, a blue suit, no tie, we're good. Brown shoes with a brown belt, make sure it
Mhm.
matches. So I'll do a search for a gray suit with a brown belt, and that's my search. And then I'll see who has the best price and go there and pick it up or shop online. What I did this time was I told ChatGPT I'm going to be I'm speaking about these topics. I'm going to Palm Springs where the weather is blah, blah, blah. And it recommended my outfit. So it's a very different way of shopping. You're
True.
putting a lot of trust into this system, but then the clothing that it recommended was beautiful. So I did write an article a couple of weeks ago as well. I don't know how familiar you are with Procter Gamble's first moment of truth. So in the
P&G? I haven't
early,
heard of them. Yeah.
so Procter and Gamble in the early 80s, 90s, maybe even earlier than that, wrote a thesis about the first moment of truth. First moment of truth was when customers shop, they're experiencing and discovering an item on shelf in store. And so someone would find a new shampoo, they would see it amongst all the other 20 shampoos that are in the aisle. Then they would go back, tell friends, family about the shampoo, and that's how people started discovering it. It was just this verbal kind of sharing. Fast forward to e-commerce, throughout the 2000s, Google decided to write something called the zero moment of truth. And
Zima. Yeah.
ZMOT. So ZMOT was a big thing that we all followed.
Mm-hmm.
Really started helping us understand how to write content, make sure that our site was got the right search results, right tags, et cetera, et cetera. I believe today we're in a new moment. I call it the AI moment of discovery, and that's how I've been labeling it. I want to build out a piece much like ZMOT did, but I
AI
think we're
mod or moment of shoe. Yeah.
yeah.
Interesting.
So I call it the AI moment of discovery, and I think that's where we're living right now. Maybe 30% of us are actually doing it. I don't think it's going to take longer than another 6 months before
No.
50% or more are doing it. And it won't be people searching for, I need a barbecue. It will be, I'm planning a backyard renovation. What should I buy? Are you ready to show up in those moments that customers are searching and
Yeah.
be discovered versus the historical, I'm interested in the Napoleon barbecue?
It's really going to be tied to, like you said, it's funny because we are in the industry focusing on mattress of finding the right life moment.
Yeah.
And I think these are going to be very strong incentive for people to look at not only a mattress, but when you move, when you have a kid, when you do a big reno, when you have people over for in your first house for Christmas, especially these big purchases will show up not because you think about it, but because it was suggested throughout your conversation with the AI.
Yeah, I'll give you another real example. My wife and I had to drive to Edmonton. We moved from Ontario
Mm-hmm.
to Edmonton. It's a 3-day drive. We had 2 cats. So I put in a search into ChatGPT about here's my family dynamics, two adults, 2 cats that we're bringing. My son's staying in Ontario. What are we going to do throughout this drive? How should we break it up? Where should we stop? What's the optimal length of time? And it planned my whole route with one prompt. Told me
That's
exactly the
crazy.
hotels to stay at, told me some sites to go and see. I challenge anyone to do this today. Like, it is the
Oh,
best vacation planner. It
I
takes
agree.
so can you imagine though, if anyone is like typing into it today, what renovation should I do to a home? Where should I travel next? If you're in the travel industry, you want to make sure that you're showing up for those type of search results. So you got to start thinking about working with agencies to make sure that you are indexing on chat for those things. And it's not easy. There's
No,
a
it's
lot of
not.
content thinking and how you write for these type of things. So it's going to be interesting. I'm
Yeah, it's
excited
going
to
to
live
be,
through it.
it's going to be cool. Chris, amazing conversation. I want to finish with 2 things. One, if people want to read your book, where should I go?
Yeah, the best place is Amazon.ca. It's on Indigo as well. It's any digital platform. So if you're in the US, you can get it on Walmart.com. And it's funny because I just reached out to my publisher. Someone wanted to buy 60 books from me. And it's actually cheaper for me to get it on Amazon than get it directly from my publisher.
That's crazy.
They print it, they deliver it the next day, and there's no shipping. Whereas if I get it from my
Fees or
publisher,
anything.
there's a
Wow.
$300 charge for shipping. So it's funny, but yeah, Amazon, it's only $21.99, and lots of positive feedback on it. I think it's all 5-star ratings. I'm very fortunate with that, and yeah,
Well, congrats, because that's a big, and it's really interesting that you started as a series of white paper or studies you've made over the year that were just coming over and over again. Because you're absolutely right, cannibalization since the moment I started working in advertisement and marketing is something that has been very popular. So, last question is, what keeps Chris up at night these days?
retirement.
Really?
I think a lot about where, especially with the AI and robotics, and where the economy could end up in 5 years, and how fast I know this is like too big picture stuff, honestly, but it does keep me up at night of where our RSPs will go, or pension plans will go with these type of advancements if they happen too fast. I think there's a lot of positive from these things, but I also think no one's really trying to protect us. We have to protect ourselves. So that retirement plan, even though I'm only turning 50, is already making me worried. And then in all seriousness, with retail and with consulting, is I think what keeps me up at night is knowing where each of my clients are, who I represent, who I talk to, all of my friends in the industry. Is you want to go and chase AI, but we haven't got the foundations of retail right. And what I mean by that is AI is driven from good content on your products, good data from your P&L and your numbers. And if all of a sudden you start relying on AI to give you opinions, those opinions based on bad data are really going to bugger up your business. So to me, it's like, have the vision of AI, put it on your roadmap, test where it's not going to be a risk, but please, for God's sakes, make sure your systems and your data and everything is correct before you use that large language model to start making recommendations on your business.
Good old saying is, and that goes with people, but I guess AI too. Hear everyone out. Don't listen to anybody.
Right. I love that.
Good advices, but ultimately you get to call the shots. So,
I love
all
that.
right, Chris, thank you so much once again for joining me today. And if people want to follow you or have a chat with you, I guess LinkedIn is probably still the best platform.
Yeah, LinkedIn for sure. I love that tool. I love it because we have a great network. We can easily reach out to each other, and not even to sell each other something, but just to update each other on what's going on in the business and to throw an idea off of each other. I think it is the best and smartest tool for us to leverage. And I know we get a lot of spam. Can I chat for 15 minutes? Can you chat for 5 minutes? But there's a lot of positive out of it as well. So please reach out to me on LinkedIn, Chris Parsons. You'll see it, Retail Rewired, and look forward.
And just to follow, because you're pretty active also at just giving information out there. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah. I try to make sure that I'm sharing thoughts, perspective. I would love people to comment more, like whether you agree or don't agree. I want the dialogue because it will make me better. But hopefully people will find the time to do that going forward.
Thank you so much once again, Chris. And I would invite everybody from our listener to go check out his LinkedIn and definitely get the book.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks, Chris. Bye-bye. Thank you so much for being part of the Up at Night family. If you've liked what you heard today, don't forget to rate, follow, subscribe, or leave me a comment below. New episodes of Up at Night drop every 2 weeks. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss a single episode. I'm Jeremiah Curvers. Until next time.